Something's happening. All right. I believe we're live. We're recording. So thank you. Thank you very much, my brother from another mother, Mr. Mark Sarfo-Kantanka, for agreeing to join me on the third episode of Coffee with Kofi, which, as you know, is really about sharing the stories of leaders around the world on their call to pivot and do something that is purposeful to them, whether it be for their families, communities, or the world as a whole. And I couldn't think of anyone better to have than your good self, having been closely aligned to your journey for many, many years. I mean, like over 30 years now, really, isn't it? So, yes, enough from me. I really want to hear more about you. So, yeah, can I ask you to just give us a quick introduction of who you are? So your elevator pitch in terms of who you are and what you do, and then we'll get into it from there, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, sure. Perfect. And yeah, I'm glad I made the podium. I'm number 3 in the series of talks. So yeah, hopefully it'll be a good one. And yeah, it's a pleasure to be on the call, Kofi. So a bit about myself. My name is Mark Sarfo-Kantanka. I'll probably describe myself as a business founder, an entrepreneur. I guess nowadays, it seems like everyone's an entrepreneur. Everyone can be an entrepreneur. So maybe there needs to be a bit more depth as to what that means, and hopefully it will come out during this conversation. I definitely see myself as being a problem solver when it comes to business. You know, within businesses, you see a problem, you devise a solution, and then that can be something, hopefully, that becomes business viable, that allows you to make a living by and creates opportunities for other people. And I think that's ultimately been my journey. Full-time since 2012, so quite some time now. It might give away my age a little bit there. But yeah, I'm definitely, I see myself as being a business founder. And it's also probably important to just knock on head early that when you're solving problems, or when you're an entrepreneur, it's important not to try and save the world. Otherwise, you're wearing too many hats. And what you're defined as to the outside world and also internally gets lost. So in recent years, I tried to narrow myself and my focus to be more impactful when it comes to what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. And I think something that I've always taken, I think always, it's an overused word, but more recently I've taken counsel from you on is that piece around being intentional with what you do, why you do it, and how you do it. And I'm sure some of that will come out later on. But as ever, I feel like it was a great intro, but sold you a little bit short and maybe doesn't give context to all of the different hats that you currently are wearing, albeit streamlined, because like you say, you know, trying to be not save the world. But I guess our paths followed up until you decided to deepen your studies and do the masters in economics, and then more recently, you know, you said 2012, you started in business. So if we look at the founder, entrepreneur, business owner hats that you currently wear, like how are you spending your time in terms of the different entities, and maybe a bit about what they do, because it'd be interesting for those that don't know you yet to get to understand whether they are interconnected, whether they are disparate, do they need to be, but we can get into a bit of that as well, you know?
Yeah, sure. I think to the outside world and what I market myself more as now is being co-founder of Nexus. Nexus being an innovation hub where we help build businesses. We help build viable businesses that can stand on their own 2 feet, that they themselves solve a problem for a target audience. And Nexus has probably been a culmination of understanding various challenges that we've seen as founders. My co-founder in that company is Farouk Dean. And I'm also co-founder with Farouk in Cellar Door, an events company. So that's the more mature company. Cellar Door was something I went full-time with in 2012. So I jumped ship from the world of banking. So as you've alluded to post studies, seemingly found my way into banking, into finance, which was great. It gave me really good understanding of the world of work, of corporate life, and I specifically worked within credit risk, which some people might feel is a bit strange to go from credit risk to run an events company, but it very much allowed me to straddle both worlds when it came to connecting creatives with corporates and solving problems corporates had when it came to how to engage with their target market and their audiences. So that's what Cellar Door did and still does. It works with brands and corporates, landowners to problem solve. So that's the Cellar Door hat. But again, I spend more of my time now with Nexus, which was born in 2019. So again, as I've alluded to, that's where we incubate businesses that are on that scale-up journey, that are looking to grow themselves. We help build them as businesses by providing them with the professional tools, professional partners, mentorship, coaching, the fundamentals that will enable them to focus on what they're doing within their business, whilst having credible partners to help support them on their journey growth.
Amazing. And one other thing that hasn't come up, in fact, there's probably a couple that hasn't come up. I mean, is it, just to ask you, is there anything else that you'd like to that you spend your time on when you have spare time? Because obviously you've got lots of spare time. Not. Yeah,
there are. There's a couple of other hats I do wear. I think one that I'll touch on in this call. One I won't at the moment. I don't think the timing is right. But what I will touch on is me being a mentor myself. So I work as a mentor, or I'm a mentor for Accenture for their FinTech Innovation Lab program. So that allows me to get in front of some amazing FinTech businesses. It's a global program that they operate, running out of New York. They've got an Asia program. There's also one in Europe, which runs out of London. And that runs for 12 weeks of the year. And it's amazing to be in an ecosystem of other mentors or professional partners who are really trying to broaden the impact of some of these really clever tech companies that are trying to problem solve areas within the world of finance. And yeah, something I really enjoy. I can turn up as myself. I'm not turning up wearing a hat of a business. So it's actually, it's a nice pat on the back to know that you're giving something back based on your knowledge, your expertise that these businesses value, which is it's brilliant.
Yeah, I've valued your expertise over the many years, and being my right-hand man when I've had conundrums of a personal but also professional capacity, and also just in terms of like how to do life, because I feel like from similar backgrounds, we've got our influences that we take from outside, but then there's the influences that come to us at home as well, and the things that we were taught, which are useful in some regards, but different to the tools that we need now, and in this modern era, in terms of risk taking and other things that I know you and I've talked about in the past. But it's fascinating that you've really taken this. I see a bit of a theme, this problem solving, wanting to share knowledge and wanting to give back to another level with Nexus, with Cellar Door. It's a problem solving situation. Nexus with businesses and startups, and then with Accenture, you're helping fintechs as well. So that's something that's coming through to me really strongly. And I know everyone that knows you knows that you are that go-to guy who will do what they can to help people. So thank you. So it brings me to my next question, which was the call to pivot your career and start on that business journey. Because financial services in London, in the UK, probably one of the most lucrative ones that you could be in. Job security to a degree, but your skills as a credit risk analyst always needed to understand where the bank's liabilities or opportunities are. What was the call to pivot from that stability and security and status, if you will, in my word, but to starting your own, I was going to say things, plural, because you've got a few different hats.
Yeah, it's a great question, Kofi, and I think a lot comes from hindsight. I think when I look back at the call to pivot, it probably wouldn't have made much sense at the time. Cellar Door, in essence, and what I was doing back then, I can almost say was a full-time passion whilst working at Barclays. And sometimes I say I was working part-time at Barclays, I was working full-time on Cellar Door. You know, if only they knew how much work I was doing at my desk that was non-bank related. I can say that now because I'm out. But yeah, organizing events, and the events really started off within the realm of music, using music as a medium, as a way for, as I said, brands to connect what they're doing to their target market by wrapping a concept around something music related. And it was in 2009 actually, but it's 2009, where we were approached by the Mayor of London, the Mayor's office, to help curate a concert they were organising in Trafalgar Square. And it was a non-intentional stumble into this space. We'd worked with one of the consortium members of this particular event on something the year prior, which is why we were invited in. You know, connections are everything. So, so we turned up at City Hall. There was a meeting being chaired by the head of the Met Police, different stakeholders present, the Youth Justice Board, the Home Office, at the time Bebo, which was a social media platform.
I remember that. Yeah.
And then there was us representing Cellar Door. I think I must have called in sick in the morning to work, or I had a doctor's appointment, something like that. So anyway, we're sitting in City Hall and they're going around the table introducing one another. And then they come to us as Cellar Door, and we gave an introduction that, we're here just to listen to what the concept is and see how we can add value. Because that's what we were promised would be the occasion. And as they're going through the different agenda points, it gets to the agenda point of the concert element of what's taking place. And the chair, the head of the Met Police, said, so over to Mark and Farouk from Cellar Door to tell us about their plans for the concert.
All right.
If you remember back to the days of University Coast, where we would like be walking to university ahead of a presentation and we're like just gearing each other up. That was one of those moments, but we had less time to think about how we're going to navigate this immediate presentation we had to give to this impressive pool of people. But somehow we tag teamed it, and we were able to convey a sense of knowing what we knew when it came to artistry and UK talent. And we were invited back for a meeting the following week. So it was another call in sick or such the like to work. And after a few weeks, it turned out, it was very apparent that there wasn't a unifying voice that pulled all the stakeholders together. As opposed to just consulting on the lineup, we ultimately co-produced the event alongside, I think it was Greenwich Docklands Festival. So we co-produced the whole concert. We diversified the angle as to how they looked at producing this, but not just focusing on music. At the time, we were doing a UK tour of a brand called Four Borders by Borders. So I remember, that was it was brilliant to be working with at the time, because it allowed us to position the fact that we wanted to bring the first skate ramp to Trafalgar Square, which we had to jump through loads of hoops. We got a skate ramp erected in front of the gallery at the back of the square. We made use of the fourth plinth. We had a fashion show taking place within the square. So ultimately, we had different areas of creativity melting into this, what was initially perceived to be a concert to champion the importance of becoming aware of knife crime in London. to actually dissipating the voices. One key concern that the stakeholders had was, what if people turn up and want to start violence or start trouble? A bit of a naive way to think about things. But we said, actually, if you mix up audiences, then actually there's not a dominant voice, and it allows people to interact with one another in a way that they don't normally in a safe environment. So we had boarders turning up, we had fashionistas, we had people, we had music heads, we had artists, and it was just a melting pot of creativity. So, it was a Saturday in September. The lead up was grey and murky, and then the day came and the sun was out. And I remember getting to the end of the event thinking, if we can do this off the side of our desk while still working, then actually this is something we could probably do full time. So that was the tipping point for me, at least, which said to me, actually, I can have a lot more fun in my days if I jump ship. So that's ultimately what I led myself to do. I jumped ship in 2011, 2012, and yeah, I'm still here.
You're still here. As I can see, you're very much alive and well. And the Just for Men is working, because the greys aren't showing today, if there are any. But no, you're glowing and really, yeah, must say on record, like, proud, obviously, of what you've achieved. And it sounds to me like you've just gone in, best intentions, and then figured out on the fly, like, how do we make this work? Like, in that room when the microphone comes around to you, it's like, over to you. I'm sitting here thinking, but I feel like as we get more and more experienced and older, there is a level of knowledge and experience that we have, but also the ability to do what I think was most important, in my view, is to connect the voices. So you're able to listen to what was going on and really find that way forward, which isn't about, right, I'm here, this is how it's going to be, that's how it's going to be, but really providing that sort of catalyst to the conversation is what came through for me. Does that sound about a blend or along the lines of kind of how it went for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you touched on it at the start. So I remember having a conversation with our business coach, and that's another thing I'll say. And it's opportune. Yeah, this isn't a plug that you forced me to say, but we had a business coach, and we still have a business coach. And irrespective of whichever level of business you're at, how many years you've been working on your company, having a coach is instrumental. I think it's very important to have that startup mentality. And one thing I remember our coach said in 2020, I think, during COVID, and we had a conversation. I remember saying to him, I feel like I've earned the right to own my voice. So at the start, you're not really sure about your journey, but one thing I knew I had was, I wouldn't say an attraction to risk, but I wouldn't say a what if mentality, but a why not mentality. There's anything's possible. And over the years, what I've learned is, particularly when your back's against the wall, you find a way because you have to. And sometimes that way might be to stop, or to pivot, or to go back to work within a 9 to 5. But there's always a decision to be made, and it's important not to look at it as being success or failure, because without failure you don't get success, and vice versa.
100%.
So yeah, that was definitely my energy at the beginning, and I've found my journey piece. I found my roadmap, and I found my voice ultimately. So where I was able to touch on my work with Accenture, that you've got a certain lived experience, that you trust your voice and what you're saying in terms of guidance and input you can provide to someone else's journey or a company's journey. And it's really when you reach, for me, that point of trusting yourself, can you really be of value? And coaching is what allows you to believe in what you're about, because other people might see it, but if you don't believe it yourself, then you're almost talking within yourself. You really got to be able to talk from your chest with confidence. And all the different business areas I've been involved in, I think it's the mentoring and the work with Nexus, just working with businesses and listening to their problems and knowing to signpost them with trust and authenticity in your voice, which comes over time.
That's brilliant. And 100%, so many bits of that connect and make sense to me as I start this journey, but also talking to other people on the journey of entrepreneurship around, you know, really leaning into that authenticity piece, but also understanding your value, your contribution that you can make, and then having the confidence on top of that to use your voice. And thank you for saying there wasn't a plug around coaching, because I'm not your coach, so it's not plugging me, it's plugging Gordon, who I know does a fantastic job. However, I would love to build on that, just mindful of, I know you've got this call coming up, but build on that with what are some of the key lessons from leadership that, separate to what you've already covered, could help someone else on that journey? Because I guess we can look at trust, we can look at authenticity, we can look at confidence, but have there been any other sort of situations or learnings from it that, if you could go back in time and have a chat to yourself, you'd say, try this, it might make your journey a bit smoother, you know?
Yeah, I think there's almost two parts to that question. The second one, which is, could I go back and offer, I guess, words of advice to a younger self? I'll come back to that one. I think in the first instance, the key thing when it comes to leadership is the ability to listen and the openness to learn yourself. One thing that I say to people I work with, definitely those at the start of their journey, or maybe hitting obstacles along the journey, or it might be, how do I get my product? How do I get people to buy my product or my service? Is they need you as much as you need them. So it's having the presence of mind to recognize your value. And again, when you're able to recognize your value, it positions you in a different way when you're talking to people. You're not coming at it from a position of inferiority or desperation or the need to sell.
Right.
If you're able to believe in your product, then you'll meet the right people, as long as you just keep having the right conversation. So leadership, yeah, it's so important to be able to listen and to hear what people are saying and how they are positioning themselves. And sometimes, you know, you might need to just prod someone in a certain way to get the best value out of them, which benefits them and the organization, but all comes down to listening. So that's one key criteria. I think, well, I've also said you've got to be open to being wrong. There isn't one business leader who gets it right all the time. It's about how do you learn from, I won't necessarily say mistakes. How do you learn from situations or circumstances that don't go quite as planned? And, you know, one thing that I don't say and Fruit doesn't say, and there's others I've met as well who've got the same mentality, is the word busy. So I'll never say I'm busy, because ultimately I'm not saving lives. I'm not operating in a theatre. So whatever we're doing when it comes to work is not actually life and death. It definitely feels like that sometimes.
Sure.
If you're not getting your customers, or if you're about to run out of money this week, or got to make payroll, but it's not life and death. So hang on in there. Don't take yourself too seriously. And if you can impart that calmness to people you're working with, then for me, that's what I can see makes an effective leader. People have to believe in what you say so they can follow and stand side by side you along that journey. And it's difficult to do that if, as a leader, you are frantic, or you're not yourself showing belief in what you're saying. So don't take yourself too seriously, and don't overuse the word busy, because there's other people who really are busy out there saving lives. And ultimately what you're doing, Coast, and what I'm doing, we enjoy it. So So yeah, that's definitely a key facet I try and live by.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you. And at my desk, I've got, I don't know if I should show you, but I'll show you anyway. I've started, so I'll continue. So 8 of spades and a joker, which I have put here, just to always remind myself to have an excellent time having fun. That's my
It's brilliant.
memory for that, because, you know, I spoke to someone earlier today and they're like, "How are you doing?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm great." I'm like, "Oh, you're so positive." I was like, "I woke up today." And he's like, I was like, "That's it," because from here on out, anything is possible. I made it onto the wake up list, and so I try and hold on to that. And I do see that self mastery will pay dividends in terms of that calm and that presence when you're leading the team and going through what you need to go through to get them through the next master and all the tricky periods. If I can only imagine if I saw you flapping around going, "Oh my God, Chicken Little, the roof is falling in," the team would be like, "I'm not sure." Whereas lead with that sort of calm that you bring, that sort of stoic presence that you have, then obviously people will follow. So thank you so much for that. And I think in terms of tools that you've used to utilize, sorry, to elevate yourself as a founder, you know, as a business owner, there are a couple that you've talked about so far, but just again, in the spirit of supporting others who may be thinking, "God, like, how do I equip myself to take this step or continue on this journey?" Would there be any sort of hints and tips as to tools that you'd recommend beyond the business coach? I know Gordon does an excellent job with you, but anything beyond Gordon?
Yeah, I'd definitely say diary management. So being intentional with the work that you're doing. So, you know, I read when I can, and I like taking on board knowledge of others to just improve my journey. And diary management is so important. Knowing that you're not, I'll use the word busy, ironically, you're not busy, not doing a lot, but the work that you are doing, it matters. It's very easy to fill your diary out with things that aren't adding value or moving you forward. So I use an app called Motion.
Okay.
And it allows you to rank different tasks, and then you give a time allocation to it. So whether you finished it or not, when you get to the end of that time period, you've got to move on to your next task. And if it's unfinished, your previous one, it just reallocates it to another part of your day. So what it'll do, it'll bump a less important task that you've ranked. So you're always prioritizing the tasks that you need to do. And it keeps you very focused on ensuring that you're getting work done, as opposed to you spend your morning, where you think you might be doing work, but actually all you're doing is checking emails. It's very easy to check emails. But if that's not part of your day that's adding value, then maybe spend half an hour of your day checking emails. So you're spending the majority of your day on the more important tasks, which are furthering yourself as a business, or as an employee, whatever it might be. So Motion I find very helpful. What else do I use? I have, again, there's never a right answer, because I was going to say a good work-life balance. I've heard founders, what other leaders say, there is no such thing as work-life balance when you have your own business, that you're always on. I wouldn't say they're wrong. I think you've got to, again, listen to what suits and fits you best and your mantra.
Yeah.
And for me, it's knowing when to switch off. So I don't engage with social media or check any WhatsApp messages before 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm not on it. So it allows me to be intentional with my mornings. I can do my morning meditation. I can do my morning prayers. And again, it allows me to recognize that not everything is important. Because if I wasn't doing that, I'll find time to fill that morning with other things, which actually by having this as a repeat process, I'm still turning up, I'm still seeing people, I'm still doing work. So I'm not losing anything by, again, just working on myself, by having that intention at the start of the day. And again, I think it's different for different people. Work is important, and with work, I'm very focused. I can present a roadmap of how I believe the year should be panning out. So I've got an overall vision that I can communicate with the team, which allows me to make decisions quickly, as long as the vision is there and is understood. And with that vision in place, it allows me to ensure on a Sunday morning I can go for a cycle. So I'm not thinking about work. I'm out in, whether it's the countryside or navigating the dodgy roads of London. I'm just not in that work mentality all the time, because it can get overwhelming if all you're doing and all you are is defined by your work. And that's just my viewpoint. So having that healthy work-life balance, yoga is very important to me. When I was working in corporate banking, it got to a point where I distinctly remember leaving the office at 5 to head to an evening yoga class, and people were still in the office working. Now, as I alluded to a few moments ago, it didn't stop my relevance to organization. The fact I was stopping at 5, I was still as important with the work I was doing as those who were staying much later. And maybe it was because it allowed me to focus my time a lot more when I was in the office. But by having yoga there, it again said to me that you can have other elements in your day which isn't just all about work. And over time, I've been able to maybe substitute the hour and a half of yoga to half an hour yoga and half an hour reading, half an hour something else, just by having that hour and a half carved out. So again, I think balance is very important in life. I think the final thing I'll say on this particular question is, as we were talking before about this talk, I've been keenly aware over time not to be defined by the work I do.
True.
So it was at a point where you could ask me how am I, and how I was determined by how work was going, how business was going.
Right.
It was stressful. Then how am I? Oh, I'm not so good. I don't feel good. I don't feel good because the business is under stress. I don't feel good because we haven't got that client we were searching for. So I understood the need to separate myself out from my work. So as we're having a conversation, how am I can answer that quite authentically. And I'm feeling this way because family's good, or I caught a friend over the weekend, or work will play a part of it, but I'm not defined solely by work. And I think that's been important when it comes to having a tool. The tool of not being defined by whether it's your 9 to 5 or your business, entrepreneurship, whatever it might be.
Yeah, no, I have seen that over the years. Obviously, I've known you, and I think that you are Mark, various nicknames to go with that, as you know, so I won't air any of them here, and the reason behind our nicknames, but you're independent of the job that you do or the role that you play. And in fact, I think even if we look at the hats that you spend most of your time occupying now, it's fascinating because whilst there's a common thread, each of those brings you different inputs to your life. And I'm not surprised that time management is a priority, because with any one of those alone, I guess the call from people who would want some support or would want to sell you something or reach out to you in one way, shape or form could be a lot that you could spend your time being, as you said, busy doing the things that other people are asking of you rather than the things that are going to move you and the business
Absolutely.
forward. So that's a great tip. Emotion, but also the idea of balance. And to credit to you and the guys, because I think pretty much every Sunday without fail, I've been watching on the WhatsApp group, like, yeah, they're out. Yep, they're out. They're out again. And love it, because I know there's family and there's obviously business commitments and everything, but the fact that you carve that time out to catch up and do something for you that is also connecting you to people, seeing wonderful places like we did yesterday. Cold as hell, cold as hell. But I think it just enriches life as a whole. Is kind of the sentiment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good advice. And I know we're sort of drawing to a bit of a close, because I don't want you to be late for the next thing that you've got 100%. But if we were to think about perhaps the legacy that, you know, when all is said and done and boss man calls us up, what you'd like your legacy as be it a founder or a business owner or a supporter of others going on that journey, like, what are maybe a couple of things that you would like them to sort of say about what you've contributed, what you've left, whatever the case may be, you know?
Yeah, it's a good question again. I think trust is probably number one, that people are going on a journey with you, or they've been part of your journey because they've trusted you, and their time interacting with you brings good memories of how not just a journey, but how much one was able to enrich their existence, I can say. I think that's very important. Trust. Another legacy piece, and definitely where I see myself over the next few years, is impact. So what tangible impact can I make in this small microcosm of the universe to positively impact other people, so that they can pay that forward as well? So there's a ripple effect. You mentioned the word knowledge very early on in this call, and, you know, knowledge transfer is one of the most lucrative currencies that we all have, and it's the ability to share that knowledge and its ability to, you know, impact and magnify the opportunities of others, which if we all had that as, dare I say, founders of our own destinies. I won't go off tangent a little bit, but as we all own something. So I'm talking from the position of being the owner of a business, and and where I am able to, through mentorship or just the ability to want to be open in sharing that knowledge, if I can be transparent with that as much as possible, and create that ripple effect, knowingly and unknowingly, would be an amazing legacy. So I don't need to know what I've done. I can be anonymous with it, just knowing that someone's benefited and something's happened positively through that interaction. I think that'll be amazing for me. And as long as I'm just living my life authentically as a business founder, and as I said, passing on that knowledge, then I'm happy.
Yeah, I think such worthwhile, you know, legacies to live. You know, trust, knowledge sharing, helping others along their journey, and an interesting piece. I definitely think we're going to need a part 2, but, you know, going into giving support to people where it doesn't have to be front page of the Times, like, oh, look what I did. There's something in there that I'd love to unpick and unpack with you, because not everyone sees it the same way. Some people are very public with their I'll say public displays of affection, but, you know, non-public giving.
You know, as I've alluded to earlier, I don't think there's a right way, and I do believe as well that public displays of affection are important, because sometimes it's a case of watch people do, not what they say. And if you don't see something, then how can you be impacted by it? So,
yeah.
Some people, for their legacy, some of these, amazing donors, you've got some of these donors who give funding to some of these museums that allows young people to get into the creative arts. They've got their name on the wall. Now, some might say is that, why would you do that? If you've given, why have that as a marker? But actually having that as a marker could be something that inspires someone else to do the same.
Yeah, 100%.
Public displays of affection, as you put it, it's very warranted and needed. And I think that there's a balance to how you do it. As long as, I think it comes down to authenticity. If you're authentic and how you do it, then it carries weight.
100%. And it comes back to something that you and I talked about some time ago about the sort of social media and navigating that. And we talked about the intention behind it. People will forever have an opinion. That's why we're individuals on the actions of another person, with or without full facts. They don't need them. They'll make a view on it. But if you can stand by that, to your point, like authentically know that you've done what you've done for the reasons that resonate to you with the information that you have to hand, then you've got to live your life and let others live theirs and have their opinions, because those that matter will understand, and those that don't understand and say they don't matter, but they're probably not in your inner circle for it to be a thing to change who you are unnecessarily, as long as you're being authentic, really. So what a marvelous one. So I think we're going to need a part 2. So summertime, let's get through it. Let's get out there, and we definitely have to do it. But I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story with that truth and with that authenticity. That's why I needed you on this podium in no particular order. I needed you on here because I think yours is such a rich story, corporate life, creative life, just making it happen in a way that you don't need to be an extrovert. I've never said that you're an extrovert. I think as we used to walk along, people probably know who the loudest of us was, but quietly and calmly, consistently, you've been creating a great impact, and one that I'm grateful for, and I'm sure lots of other people are. So thank you for saying yes to having a chat.
But thank you for the invitation and the platform, and happy to do a part 2. I know, your ability to create, this platform and allow people to share stories is important, and I'm very conscious that I've probably answered some of the questions, whether you want to say holistically or in a roundabout way, with some of the answers I gave, and there might be some benefit for actual detail around some of the things that have or enable takeaways for people. So Nexus does this for that reason. Nexus works with overseas founders in this way. This is how Nexus gets contracts, and the mechanics we put in place to enable that to happen. And so if there's a part 2, if there's space, more than happy to jump on, my bro.
Creative as always. You've just hit me with something. So maybe there's a room for us to do some sort of masterclass, depends how people take it, but in terms of actual sharing of some of the practical steps that will help business navigate. Because I think from a holistic view, yes, 100%, you've got themes that resonate. So we'll be cooking. Thank you so much. And we'll speak probably this week. So keep doing what you're doing. It's much appreciated that you made the time.
No, thank you.
All right. All the best, brother.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.